Harold Finch, 62, retired postman, had delivered mail in Millbridge for 39 years. He still woke at 5:45, even though no one expected him anywhere. Every morning he walked the same route with Bess, his ancient border collie, nodding at curtains that twitched exactly on schedule. On the third Tuesday in October, he noticed Mrs. Patel's curtains still closed at 7:30. Unusual. She was always up watering her geraniums before the school bus. Harold hesitated, then knocked. No answer. He used the spare key she had given him for emergencies 12 years ago and had never touched. Mrs. Patel was on the kitchen floor, conscious but pale, clutching her left arm. Harold dialed 999, wrapped her in the blanket from the sofa, and waited with her until the ambulance came. The paramedics knew him by name. Half the town did. By noon, the whole of Millbridge knew Harold had saved Mrs. Patel's life. By tea time, the local Facebook group had crowned him hero of the high street. Harold hated fuss. He took Bess home and hid in the shed. The next morning, the curtains were twitching again, but for him, people waved too enthusiastically. Mr. Gregg, from the butcher, pressed a free pork pie into his hand. The librarian tried to hug him. Harold took a longer route. On Thursday, the mayor, a man who had once fined Harold for parking his post van 2 inches over a yellow line, phoned to say the town wanted to give him a civic award next month. Harold said he'd think about it, which everyone understood as a polite no. Friday brought the first real twist. A smartly dressed woman in her 40s appeared at his gate holding a clipboard and a smile that looked expensive. Mr. Finch, Laura Brennan, Northern Life Insurance. Mrs. Patel listed you as her emergency contact. She's asked us to fast-track a claim, and there's a reward clause for acts of neighborly heroism. £10,000 payable to the rescuer. We just need your bank details. Harold stared. He had never won anything larger than a box of biscuits in the church raffle. That evening, he sat at his kitchen table with the form and a cup of tea gone cold. £10,000. He could finally fix the leaking greenhouse roof, buy Bess the posh vet treatment for her hips, maybe even take that narrowboat holiday he'd circled in a brochure for 6 years. He almost signed. Then he noticed the date at the top of the form, 17th October. That was Wednesday. He had found Mrs. Patel on Tuesday, the 15th. Harold walked to the hospital on Saturday morning carrying grapes he didn't think anyone actually liked. Mrs. Patel was sitting up in bed, color back in her cheeks. Harold, love, they say I'm a medical miracle. Mild heart attack. No permanent damage. He showed her the insurance letter. She frowned, then laughed until the monitors beeped. That's my old policy, cancelled in 2019. The new one has no reward clause. Some clerk in Leeds must have pulled the wrong file, and Laura Brennan left the company last year. Probably a scam artist using an old badge. Harold felt the peculiar relief of a man who had nearly become rich and was secretly glad to stay ordinary. Monday brought the second twist. The real reason Mrs. Patel had survived so well was that Harold had started compressions within 2 minutes. something he only knew how to do because 3 years earlier, the post office had sent every postie on a compulsory first aid course in case of terrorist attacks that never came. The local paper ran a story. Retired postman saves life with skills learned from terror training. The reporter asked for a photo. Harold refused. On Tuesday, real Tuesday, he resumed his walk. Curtains opened normally. People nodded, not waved. Perfect. At the corner shop, Mr. Gregg still slipped him a pork pie, but quietly. The mayor never mentioned the award again. One small change remained. Every Thursday at 7 p.m., 8 neighbors gathered in the church hall to practice CPR on a dummy everyone called Harold too. Harold himself refused to teach. I'm retired. But he brought biscuits and made the tea. Winter arrived early. One December morning, Bess couldn't stand. Harold carried her to the vet in his arms like a sack of flour. The bill was £1,800. He paid without blinking because the greenhouse roof still leaked and the narrowboat holiday was still only circled in a brochure. And some things are more important than money you never expected anyway. That evening, Mrs. Patel arrived at his door with a Victoria sponge and an envelope. Inside were £87 in coins and small notes. Collection from the CPR class, she said. We're paying for Bess's next checkup. You saved my life. We save your dog's comfort. Fair trade. Harold tried to protest. She patted his cheek the way she had when he was 12 and late delivering her birthday card. Take it, love. Heroes don't get to argue. He took it. And on the first day of spring, when the greenhouse roof was still leaking and the narrowboat brochure had moved to the recycling pile, Harold looked at Bess, sleeping peacefully on her new orthopedic bed, and realized that some years you don't need adventures. You just need Tuesdays that turn out to be Tuesdays, and neighbors who remember what matters.